Hello and welcome to our next lesson on the promise. So our word of the day today is frail. To be weak and delicate. So we're going to meet a character today who is described as being frail, although I think some of her actions might not see her as being frail. Punctuation and grammar today. In each sentence, change the underlined words into one word that contains an apostrophe. Now, this is a question that came up in your test last term that some of you found quite tricky. So here are your two sentences. The underlined words need to be changed to a word with an apostrophe. I should have put those books on at the top of my bag. On Monday, we will be going on a school trip to visit a museum. So change the underlined words into words using an apostrophe for me, and then I'm going to talk you through it. So pause now and get that one done for me. Okay, so let's see how we do this. Let's see if I can get my tools up. Okay, so should have. Quite often we might say should have, and in fact I find that written in people's work quite a lot, to say I should have done that, because when we shorten it, that's how it sounds when we read it out. So the way an apostrophe works when we're doing what's called a contraction, which is what this is it replaces the missing letters. So if I'm right, so we keep all of the letters in should. So I'm going to write that. Please bear with me. I'm writing with a mouse, so it's not going to be perfect. And I'm not even going to try joined. So there's the should. Now we have our apostrophe, which is going to replace two of the letters in the word have, leaving us with the VE. So when we contract two words or more than two words into one, we are using the apostrophe to replace the letters that we have removed. So we've removed the H and the A. So I should have put those books at the top of my bag. And you can hear there why we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that it should of, but actually it's should have, but contracted to be should have. Again, we've got another contraction here. On Monday, we will. So we keep the we, but we're going to again remove two of the letters from the will. We're going to take out the W and the I, replace those with an apostrophe, which is an up in the air comma. And then we have our double L. So on Monday, we'll be going on a school trip to visit a museum. Okay, well done if you got that right. Let's have a go at another one that I've written. So in each sentence, change the underlined words into one word that contains an apostrophe. Exactly the same again, but I've chosen different words. They could have smiled at each other in the street. The girl should not have stolen from the people around her. So these sentences are linked to the promise. Can you change the underlined words to contractions using an apostrophe? Okay, pause now if you haven't finished, because I'm going to move on and talk you through it. Okay, so again, very similar to the should have. We keep the could. Replace the HA with an apostrophe and have the VE. Apologies for my writing again. Here, we've got similar, again, should not. So we keep the should. We're going to change this one to shouldn't, which actually is a little bit different because we attach the N, we're only removing the O. So we attach the N to the should, replace the missing letter with an apostrophe, and then put our T on the end. The girl shouldn't have stolen from the people around her. Well done if you got that right. If you didn't, make sure that you've watched that a couple of times to really get that into your mind for me. Okay, today's learning. Let me just move my picture a little bit. As a writer, can I generate a variety of phrases and sentences to engage my reader? So we're going to read through 3 pages of the text, and we're going to write some phrases and sentences using noun phrases, bronze, relative clauses, silver, and brackets and dashes, gold today. At all times, we're going to imagine that we are a bird looking down on the scenes that we see below us. So our first page that we're going to look at today. The people had grown as mean and hard and ugly as their city, and I was mean and hard and ugly too. So with our noun phrases, we will be describing what we see using a variety of adjectives. So looking at the adjectives they've used here to describe the people, and the person is describing themselves as. So we've got mean, hard, ugly. So they've used a variety of adjectives to describe the people, and we can put it into a sentence like this. The people of the city were mean, comma, hard and ugly. The comma is there because we're listing adjectives. We've got more than two. If it was just two, we'd say the people of the city were hard and ugly. We just had the and between, but because we have three, we've got the comma there to separate them in the list. So are there any other adjectives you feel you could use to describe them? Maybe colour or mood? Try putting them into a sentence yourself. If you use more than one adjective, you've used a noun phrase. So let's have a look again at this. So maybe they all look quite miserable, don't they? So we could use that one, miserable. Quite dull colours, maybe browns and greys. So you could maybe use those into a sentence. So the people of the city were miserable and grey. You could use that. We wouldn't want to use looked miserable and sad because they mean the same thing. So we need to be making sure that when we choose adjectives, we're not using adjectives that describe the same thing. Okay, so have a look, have a think, see if you can word your own sentence. And when you're ready, press play again. So pause, have a go at wording your own sentence, and then you can press play, and I'm going to move on to the next screen. So relative clauses, this is silver today. So we're going to look at the second part of that page. I lived by stealing from those who had almost as little as I did. My heart was as shriveled as the dead trees in the park. So it talks about her heart being as shriveled as the dead trees in the park. Can we write a sentence which includes a relative clause about the trees using this vocabulary? Remember, a relative clause must have punctuation around it, and the sentence must make sense without the relative clause in it. So here we've got the trees, which are shriveled, comma, stand dead in the park. So if we were doing our punctuation kung fu, we would have our capital letter, the trees, comma, which are shriveled, comma, stand dead in the park, full stop. Okay, so your turn now. I would like you to have a go at changing the order of the adjectives, which I've underlined for you to help, to create a new sentence containing a relative clause. So you're not going to change the structure of the sentence. All I want you to do is have a go at changing the order of the words so that we have a new sentence. That's simple. And if you find that so easy, because to be honest, you're only really swapping two words, challenge, can you use an adjective to describe the park as well? Or maybe two, make it a noun phrase, an expanded noun phrase. So go from having just a relative clause to having a relative clause which contains also in your sentence an expanded noun phrase. Okay, so pause now and have a go at that. Right, hopefully you came up with something like the trees, which are dead, stand shriveled in the park. You may have done the challenge. You may have something like the trees, which are dead, stand shriveled in the dull and miserable park. Because I think in this situation, in the way that the city is at the moment, it's not a lovely green and flourishing park. It's probably quite grey and brown, and it's shriveled and dead, isn't it? So we need to make sure that all of our adjectives reflect that, because then we're going to show the contrast when we look later on in the book. So at this point, everything we're saying about the park and everything that we're seeing is going to be fairly miserable, fairly dull, fairly grey. We're really painting that picture of what our bird is seeing as it's looking down. Brackets and dashes, so our gold. We can also add extra information into a sentence using brackets and dashes. The sentence should make sense without that extra information. So just like the relative clause, here we could remove the which are shriveled. The trees stand dead in the park makes sense. We don't need which are shriveled, but which are shriveled gives our reader extra information, puts a picture into their mind, engages our reader, and also it shows off our wonderful grammatical skills. So let's look at the next page and gather some adjectives from it that we can use in our sentences. Now, my picture here isn't particularly clear, so I'm going to read it out for you from the book. and I'd like you to write down every time you hear an adjective for me. Or if you just see something and you want to describe it, so you think, oh, I'm going to describe the brick wall, I'm going to describe the shadows, something like that. And then one night I met an old lady down a dark street. You might notice I'm putting a little bit of a emphasis on some of the adjectives. She was frail and alone, an easy victim. Her bag was fat and full, but when I tried to snatch it from her, she held on with the strength of heroes. To and fro we pulled that bag until at last she said, "If you promise to plant them, I'll let go." What did she mean? I didn't know or care. I just wanted the bag, so I said, "All right, I promise." She loosened her grip at once and smiled at me. Okay, so as we said with our word of the day today being frail, that's one of your adjectives. The lady appears old and frail, but actually she gives up a good fight. And she sows the seed for the next part of our story. So let's have a look. I got the words old, dark, frail, alone, fat, full, and strong. So we can use these adjectives and our own ideas to help us add extra information. So the lady, bracket, old and frail, bracket, is walking down the dark street, full stop. So here, the extra information is in brackets. You could do like a relative clause and say who is old and frail. That's absolutely fine. It's just another way of separating that information off. We could use commas, we can use brackets. Okay, so if we remember, our test is if we take that extra information out, the sentence should still make sense. So let's make sure it does. The lady is walking down the dark street. That makes sense. So that's fine. That passes the brackets test. Next up, dashes. The lady, dash, frail and alone, dash, is walking down the dark street. Now here, I really don't think we need who is frail and alone. I think frail and alone on its own just paints that picture in the mind of the reader. And actually, it's almost like a bit of a pause. It's building tension here. So we know, because we've read the book, but we know even before that as a reader, from this sentence, something's going to happen to this old lady, because why else would our author tell us that she's frail and alone and she's walking in a dark street? It's painting a picture that we're going to have a problem for this lady. So let's do the test though. Let's take out the information in the dashes and make sure it makes sense. The lady is walking down the dark street. Yes, it makes sense because it's exactly the same as the sentence above. So the lady dash, frail and alone dash, is walking down the dark street. So I've used 3 adjectives in those sentences. Okay, nothing that isn't already given to me, so nothing too hard. Okay, our final page today. I ran off without a backward look, thinking of the food and money in her bag. Okay, so that's our final image. I want you to look at that again, so you'll need to rewind me in a moment once you've heard the instructions, or back at the other 2. I would like you to write some sentences about the image which contain expanded noun phrases, relative clauses, and brackets and dashes. So you're not writing, I don't want a full paragraph, I just want some sentences that later on, when we're writing from the point of view of the bird looking down on the scene, you can literally go back to your work and pick these sentences and put them in, and they look beautiful and wonderful and show all the grammatical skills that you have, and they'll engage that reader, put a picture in their mind. So your steps to success: gather nouns. What is in the picture? So the stars, the street lights. Okay, have a look there. Stars, street lights. You've got skyscraper, you've got people. Is that a train in the bottom corner? Doesn't matter. You can say it's a train, you can say it's a bus if you like. It doesn't matter, because it's your interpretation of what you're seeing. What would the bird see? Then generate adjectives to describe them. We've got maybe bright, although nothing there particularly is bright. The stars may be quite bright, but remember, we want to paint quite a dull picture, so we maybe go for the more somber adjectives. So miserable, dull, grey, that sort of thing. Okay, so then bronze. Write sentences containing 2 adjectives or more, no more than 3 though, to describe what a bird would see looking down. Silver, have a go at a bit of bronze, so have at least one bronze sentence, and then I'd like you to write some sentences containing relative clauses using who or which. Remember, you can rewind the video and have a look at my examples from earlier. Gold, you're going to do at least one bronze sentence, at least one silver sentence, and you're going to write sentences containing brackets and dashes. So you will have at least 4 sentences. And I mean at least, I'd love to see more. Okay, so if you're feeling fairly confident with that, you'll need to rewind to relook at that picture. Okay, or in fact, I'll show it to you again now, and you can pause on that picture to do it. If you want to, of course, you can rewind the video to look at my examples, or we will put the PowerPoint into the assignment as well, so you can look at it at your own speed. I'm going to show you the picture, then, so you can pause on that, and then I will explain. If you're stuck, I will take you a bit further. So look at the picture, have a go yourself. If you're finding that you're getting stuck, press play and I'll talk you through it. Okay, so here's the picture. If you're feeling confident, feel free to pause now so that you can write your nouns and your adjectives ready to do your sentences. If you don't feel confident, we're going to move on. So if you're stuck, I've got another slide with some examples. Now, don't just copy my examples. I'd like you to change some of the words to make them your own. So you're going to have to swap in some different choices. Feel free to use a thesaurus to help you do that. There are online ones, but please make sure that an adult is with you if you're going online and using Google, and make sure that you're spelling thesaurus correctly. Otherwise, who knows what you'll get up. So, following the steps to success, my list of nouns. I've got stars, street lights, building, which is a skyscraper, people, train, I thought it was, the street. My adjectives, I thought it looked quite dark, things look broken, tall, the skyscraper is quite tall, twinkly, might have a little nice word in there, black, dirty, gritty, cracked. So they're my ones, okay? So bronze, if you're finding it tricky and you want to do a bronze sentence, here's my example. The cracked and dirty streets lie beneath me. Remember, I'm a bird flying over. So all I've done is I've chosen 2 adjectives and put them into that sentence to describe the streets. That simple. I've used a preposition telling you where the streets are, which makes it clear for my reader that I'm a bird. Because if they're lying beneath me and I'm seeing them, I'm looking down on them. And that really gives the reader the impression, oh, I think this might be told from the point of view of a bird, which is really helpful. Silver. So if you're doing bronze, feel free to pause and have a go at swapping in different words into that sentence. Maybe even challenge yourself to put a 3rd adjective in. Remember, if we're writing a third adjective in, we need to put a comma in between 2 of them because we're listing. Okay. Silver, relative clause. Street lights, comma, which stand tall and broken, comma, light nothing in the dark night. So I'm flying over, I'm seeing street lights, but because they're tall and broken, they light nothing. They're a waste of time, really, a waste of money. They're there for nothing. And I think that's kind of the picture we want to build up here, isn't it? That this is a really miserable, dark place to be. So if you want to have a go at silver, pause and see if you can change in some different nouns and different adjectives into that. Remember to keep those commas either side of your relative clause, otherwise it's not a relative clause. It has to have those commas, and also we have to be able to remove that. Okay, so if I was to take that out of the sentence, it should still make sense. Let's just check. Street lights like nothing in the dark light. Absolutely fine. Okay, does sound better with the relative clause though. That's why we use it. Okay, gold. So if you're doing bronze or silver, you can pause and carry on with that. Gold, brackets. The skyscraper, bracket, standing over 50 meters tall, bracket, reaches into the sky. Now, I did choose this one because brackets are usually used to give numerical information, which in some of the work that we've done over the last few weeks, because we've been using fiction, we haven't really had much in the way of numerical information. But here I thought, well, let's put some in and really use brackets for exactly what they're meant for. So brackets contain numerical and technical information. So I'm giving you a bit of technical information about this skyscraper. So again, I should be able to remove that information in the brackets, and it still makes sense. Let's check. The skyscraper reaches into the sky. Brilliant. That makes sense, doesn't it? And I also like the fact that it's almost a bit of personification, because it's not really reaching it sounds like it's reaching a hand up, isn't it? But it's not, it's just tall. But so it's not reaching as such, it's just standing tall. So I like the fact that this is what we call a bit of personification, which we'll come to tomorrow as well in our learning. So if you're doing gold and you want to have a go at brackets, you're going to pause now and see if you can write your own version of that sentence. Okay, maybe even make it totally different, but remember those brackets. Remember, if I take that information out, the sentence should still make sense. Final sentence, dashes. So the air dash, dirty and gritty dash, surrounds everything in gloom. It makes me feel that that bird is breathing in dirt and grit as it flies over that city. If I went and visited that city, all I would breathe in is dirt and grit. Okay, I'd need my mask. So that's, I think, paints a really good picture of what that city is like. So the dirty and gritty can come out. The air surrounds everything in gloom. It makes sense. However, does it paint a picture of it being horrible air? Surrounds everything in gloom? Yeah, it's not great, but actually the dirty and gritty really makes you think that you can almost taste the texture of the air, which is not something you want to be doing. You don't want to be able to taste air, you just want to be able to breathe it, don't you? It's almost like you breathe in, you'd be like, oh, I need a drink. It's really just not nice to be there. Okay, so hopefully these examples have helped you. Okay, if you've done your own examples and you didn't need the stuck page, you didn't need to watch all of this, but thank you if you did, and I hope that it's helped you and maybe you've got some extra ideas that you're able to use. I really look forward to seeing what you create out of these, and tomorrow we're going to be moving on to put some more engaging vocabulary for our readers, as the bird. Okay, well done.